you are, because it is
Morning Subway!
for July 26, 2024. My name is Bertie Burns. Hey, everybody. Sitting right over there. Her butt only runs on diesel. Say hi to Ashley, everybody.
I'm not running clean fuel, I'll tell you that.
Did we talk about that Katy Perry video yesterday?
Yeah, we did.
That seems like a week ago at this point.
Well,
we had a long day yesterday.
We've lived a full life since yesterday.
It really has been a full life. Actually.
It has. In particular, we've seen Deadpool and Wolverine, so we are now spoiler-proof, which is exciting.
We did it. We made it. I understand there was a pretty big spoiler in the last trailer that came out. We won't repeat it in case people haven't seen it. We'll be very careful not to spoil it for you all. You can join us in our spoiler-free experience if you'd like.
Yes. However, if you want to be spoiled, you cheeky minx, we will be happy to do that this weekend on the Patreon. We're going to have a full breakdown discussion. We recorded yesterday as soon as we got back from the theater, just sort of digesting the movie and our initial thoughts on the matter, not as professionals, but as just general moviegoers.
Speak for yourself. I did it as a professional. I'm a professional Deadpool critic. That's what I am. That's how I earn my living. Yeah, so that'll be up on our Patreon this weekend. You can hear our full breakdown of our thoughts. If you're interested in that, Ashley, just in general, how'd you feel about it?
Enjoyed it. Not without flaw, but I enjoyed it.
Okay. I had really specific things that I can't say because I don't want to color anyone else's opinion before they go see it, but I hope you enjoy the movie very much. And, the way we record those things is more just like, to me, it reminds you of when we'd go see movies and then you kind of go out for coffee or pie afterwards or like hit a Denny's.
Just like sit down and grab a drink after and be like, what was that? What was this thing? Or like, I really liked this thing, but I am not entirely sure what was going on.
What happened to the thing, or whatever.
Yeah, or like, where did this end up?
Yeah.
Just a general digestion discussion.
It's always fun. And so that's the tone of what we recorded for this week's Patreon. Before we begin the podcast, can I do a little bit of personal house cleaning here?
You may.
I said cleaning, I meant keeping. Housekeeping.
Clean your house.
Yesterday, at the end of the podcast, just before the podcast, I had gotten this text, and I was making fun of it. A text from one Theodore Cruz. I actually don't know if his name is Theodore. Ted Cruz. I got this message, and I was poking fun at it because he included a selfie along with it. After the podcast, I was looking at it, and I looked at the link that was included in it, and some of the language felt kind of rage-baity a little bit to me. And so I looked into it and specifically looked into the URL, and I'm about 95% sure that came from an illegitimate source. I think it was a scam political text message. They were trying to get me to
okay, they're trying to get
stuff.
your back up and get you to click on the link without thinking too hard about it.
Right, which would make sense why they would use Ted Cruz, because he's pretty divisive. People have reactions when they see Ted Cruz in particular. And I'm one of them, so it worked on me, I would say.
But you didn't click the link.
No. In fact, it's always hard to investigate, how do you figure out if a link is bad or not without actually using it? And but I went to a place where it's rating trustworthiness of URLs, and this domain had a 1% trustworthy rate. So I'm going to say not great.
Not great.
But
could be better.
Listen, I'm not a fan of Ted Cruz. I would love to be able to make fun of Ted Cruz, and there's plenty of opportunities to do that. But when I do it, I want it to be honest. I want it to be an honest thing that we're doing. We're making fun of him. And I don't think yesterday was an honest thing to make fun of, because I don't think he sent that text message, nor did anyone from his official campaign, in my opinion at this point.
So you're saying I should put down this pitchfork?
You should probably put down your pitchfork. And it's easy to do it, too. When you take those opportunities to make fun of someone that you disagree with or you don't like, it's really easy to do that. But eventually when they do something actually wrong, that's when you want to be able to save it, to come after them legitimately for doing that. If you go
it carries
after
more weight.
Yeah, well, if you go after every single little thing, then it just honestly just gives them wiggle room to get out of it when they've actually done something disagreeable. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah. So I don't want to be part of that problem. I don't want to be part of that misinformation. So my apologies to Mr. Cruz.
So are you going to do something to apologize, like send out $10 gift cards?
It is interesting because in the post CrowdStrike global outage, I do feel like, I know when I put a URL into my browser, I know it's not just going to go and suck away all my data. That as a computer science degree holder, I know it can't do that, but there could be a flaw that day where maybe it could expose me to something like this CrowdStrike thing that happened. You never know when shit's going to go wrong.
Yeah, well, good news.
I don't want to find the flaw.
This CrowdStrike outage that affected so many people last week, there is a real light at the end of this tunnel. And Bernie, that is that CrowdStrike sent out an email to a bunch of the affected IT professionals offering them, Bernie, a $10 gift card to Uber Eats.
To Uber Eats?
To make up for the minor inconvenience of probably spending an entire weekend awake, wading through machine after machine after machine to fix them one by one.
Yeah, they're going to give you $10 at Uber Eats because they know you don't have any time to go out to an actual restaurant, nor can you eat at home because you're buried
so
in the
busy
server
fixing
room.
their shit. Yeah.
$10 on Uber Eats. Does that even cover the service charge in most areas?
I don't even
Or the
know.
tip? Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
$10. That's really ballsy.
You know, it's funny because I was just thinking about this the other day. The millennials had this thing stuck on them of avocado toast that they can't afford a house because they're
like, if you would just stop eating avocado toast, maybe you could afford a house.
right. I feel like Gen Z has unironically weaponized that. And now the Gen Z equivalent of that is ordering Taco Bell on Uber Eats and paying like $60 for 4 tacos on Uber Eats. There's some people I see on social media talking about it. It's like, just go to fucking Taco Bell. Just go there and eat it. So yeah, so take your $10 from CrowdStrike and get about 1/5 of your normal order at Taco Bell on Uber Eats, and you'll feel much better about the whole global outage. I guarantee you'll feel so much better.
So much better. Everything is made right again.
Yeah. It was funny because JD's girlfriend, she was here for a couple of months. She was here for a while, and she was just she went back to the U.S., and I was driving them down to the airport, and I was asking her, I said, what's the first thing you do when you get back to the U.S.? And she said, honestly, the first thing I'm going to do is go to Taco Bell. And I was immediately looked at her and I go, I'm with you. I totally get that. Out of all the places in the U.S., Taco Bell. I get it. I totally get it.
And here's the thing, though. We do have Taco Bell here in Scotland. There's one in Aberdeen that we know of. But here's the thing. It's Taco Bell, but it is.
It looks like a Taco Bell.
There's a couple of chains here. There's KFC is here, Burger King is here, McDonald's is here, and they have sort of variations on how much like the U.S. they are. McDonald's, like the fries are pretty close, but then they do.
Oh, everything in McDonald's I think is the same.
Pretty close. I think some of the dishes might be a little bit different. Like, McDonald's is known for having slightly regional menus that has some things on its menus in some places that aren't in other places. So, and I think that's probably the case here as well. But the fries, they taste like the fries.
And anything in the U.S. that's called like a Western bacon cheeseburger, whatever, here they just call it Texas. Like there's Texas barbecue.
Yeah, and I want to be clear to anyone who may be listening in Scotland that no, it's not.
No, it's not like Texas.
It's not.
At all. We don't eat anything like that at all.
But then there's like KFC, for example, is a restaurant here, but it is not like the U.S. It is chicken, it is breaded, and it is fried, but something about it is very, very different from the U.S. And it's hard to quantify what that is.
I will say this, though. Almost all the fast food restaurants here, just like everywhere, is tap to pay. This might be a post-pandemic thing, which is when we moved here. Sometimes it's hard for us to separate what's unique in the UK and what's just everything post-pandemic. Even the most rural fast food restaurant here, it has touchscreen menu kiosk where you order everything yourself. Those do exist in the US, but they're everywhere here. And they have KFC, and I watched JD order, and he it's a great way to ruin your health because you're like, why don't I put cheese on it? Oh, I can put an extra chicken patty on my chicken sandwich. Let's do that.
Let's do it. It manages to upsell without saying a word. But one of the other restaurants, Bernie, that is here but not the same is Taco Bell. We tried it, and it was like, when you're really trying to scratch that itch of something you miss, and what you're trying misses the mark and almost makes it worse.
Yep.
Taco Bell was like that for us. But to put in perspective, the state of Mexican food here in Scotland, in sunny Scotland, they sell old El Paso fajita kits in supermarkets. They are extra mild.
The default spice level is extra mild.
I don't even know what that means.
Does that mean less mild?
What? No.
So if it's extra mild, it's not below mild.
It's more mild.
It's between mild and medium.
No, I think it's less.
So it's less mild.
It's more mild than mild.
It's below mild.
Yes.
So there's like 0.
Like mild was too spicy.
Extra mild, mild, less mild, medium.
Yeah,
hot,
it's like it once saw a picture of salsa on TV.
Yeah, Sean Evans should come do Hot Ones here. They would throw him in jail immediately. He would not be able to leave the country. It would be an international incident. Has there ever been like a Scottish person on Hot Ones?
I don't know. Maybe
Gerard
we should
Butler?
look, or like a Ewan McGregor or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but
From Perth, Mr. McGregor himself.
So the state of Taco Bell here is not quite what we might desire.
So really quickly, while you're talking about Ewan McGregor, the other day, I don't know why, it just showed up in a feed where I could watch it. I decided to watch Trainspotting. I understand everybody.
Oh, you're now the Scots Whisperer.
It's a completely different movie to me now that I can understand Begbie just fine, perfectly fine. I can understand every single word that guy says. It's amazing. And I don't know how that happened.
Did it
but here we
feel
are.
like a personal accomplishment a little bit when you were watching it?
Yeah, I did. I was like, oh, I can be a translator for other people. But whenever I get homesick for the U.S., I never do this in the U.S., I go to Burger King and get a Whopper. And I don't get Whoppers in the U.S. But to me, it's like it's the exact same as it is in the U.S. It's got whatever that flame broiled taste to it. And so it's just like, okay, this is what it is like in the U.S. So I get it when I go to Burger King here.
That's not even your dish of choice at Burger King.
No. I get the oval chicken sandwich, which they've kept on the menu since like the 80s.
The Burger King chicken sandwich. It's really specific.
They have other ones now. They have real chicken sandwiches, but I'm talking about the oval, the big long oval one that tastes like Play-Doh. That's the one I love. I love it. And it doesn't taste like Play-Doh here for probably obvious reasons.
Oh, so it's ruined for you because it tastes like chicken?
Yeah, it tastes like real food. And I was like, that's not what I'm here for. Come on. What am I in this for?
Like I said, speaking, though, of chicken, there is something going on, and this is in Ohio. This is a guy went to a wings restaurant. He ordered boneless wings.
Classic Ohio.
He ate them. One, as he described it, felt like it went down the wrong pipe. You know that feeling you get when you maybe swallow a bite that you didn't chew enough, and you can almost see the cartoon bump go all the way down your throat?
I get that. Do you ever get this thing where you get like, do you ever sometimes just do a bad swallow?
Yes.
And then it's got to go all the way down. Like the moment you start the swallow, you're like, that was a bad one.
You're like, whoops.
Something's out of line. Now, I'm not talking like you swallowed food wrong or maybe it's liquid, but it's just wrong and it's got to go all the way down and it hurts the whole way down and then it's okay.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. Well, this guy had something like that.
This guy had a bone.
But yeah. What happened, it turns out, is that there was a bit of bone in his boneless chicken wing. It tore his esophagus on the way down, and he turned up at the hospital a few days later, all feverish, and they had to fix a torn esophagus. So he sued he sued the wings place and also like the place that made the chickens.
Made the chickens.
Made the chickens.
Down to the chicken factory. Those hardworking chicken smiths.
And but the Ohio Supreme Court just struck it down, saying that it was a 4-3 ruling. I'm going to read this from AP News. The Supreme Court said Thursday that boneless wings refers to a cooking style, and Berkheimer should have been on guard against bones since it's common knowledge that chickens have bones.
Well, you're reading it in a tone. Don't you agree with that judgment?
I think that if you are eating boneless wings, you would have some expectation that there would not be bones in it.
What? So what do you mean? But it's food. You're gonna run into bones every now and then in food. It's not like it's like a screw from the machine that blended all this shit together. You know?
But it's a bone. It is a wing in which there should be no bones. The bones removed. It is a boneless wing. I will also say that I'm inclined to side with the guy, largely as a result of the McDonald's coffee incident. So this was, remember the old lady, it was the lady, she ordered coffee at McDonald's drive-thru. It spilled in her lap and she got these third-degree burns all over her body. And then McDonald's ran a smear campaign against her when she lodged a suit against them. Like, oh, look at this insane lady. She oh no, she spilled coffee in her lap. Oh no, and she's making this ridiculous claim. But she did suffer third-degree burns because the coffee was so hot. It was insanely hot, way hotter than it should have been.
I got it right here on Wikipedia. It's Liebeck versus McDonald's restaurants. The plaintiff, Stella Liebeck, 79-year-old woman. This is a 1994 case. purchased hot coffee from a McDonald's restaurant, accidentally spilled it in her lap, and suffered third-degree burns in her pelvic region. She was hospitalized for 8 days while undergoing skin grafting, followed by 2 years of medical treatment. It says here she attempted to settle. She sought to settle with McDonald's for $20,000 to cover her actual and anticipated expenses. McDonald's only offered $800 in an Uber Eats gift certificate. Interesting. In 1994, they only offered $800 to counter. So she ended up suing them, and won $160,000 for these third-degree burns. This is an interesting thing here. The lawyers argued that McDonald's served their coffee too hot. McDonald's franchisees were required to keep their coffee at 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. That 82
is very hot.
To 80 degrees Celsius. Liebeck's attorneys argued that coffee should never be served hotter than 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if I agree with that, but they did research and they found that all over the city, coffee was served on average 20 degrees Fahrenheit lower than McDonald's was. McDonald's made the argument that they serve it to commuters through the drive-thru, and the commuters want the coffee to be hot wherever they end up and start drinking it. But in reality, probably what it was the second reason was that if they lowered the temperature of the coffee, it took longer to prepare it.
Yeah, that's the real reason right there is the efficiency.
Right. The volume of coffee they could produce in a day probably, or the time to get it out the door would have been greater, and therefore it would have kind of violated the whole spirit of McDonald's. Money. We're talking about money.
Which is fast above all.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking, Ashley.
Okay.
Take your $10 on Uber Eats from CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
Take your settlement. Go to fucking Starbucks and order an Earl Grey tea, just a normal hot tea, because I guarantee Starbucks is still serving tea, specifically tea at that temperature. Have you ever gotten tea at Starbucks?
Yeah.
It's ridiculously hot, Ashley. When I get a tea, I have to leave it sitting there for about 3.5 hours before it's a normal temperature and I can drink it again. The person serving it to me has one of those tinfoil suits on with the hood, and they got these two tongs that they're handing it to me.
And
it's a crucible.
It's glowing.
Yeah.
No, I think it is a very specific thing to tea, right?
Why?
What you do is you steep the tea bag in water just off the boil. So what they do is they take it up to boiling, and then they drop a tea bag in it and hand it off to you, right? Usually then, you would remove the tea bag after 5 minutes, unless you're an American, in which case, just to infuriate the Brits, everyone leaves the tea bag in. And then you wait for it to cool down. But that's kind of how tea works.
I guess so. It's also the weird thing about the US versus the UK. Had you ever in your history of growing up and spending time in the US, had you ever heard of anyone putting milk in tea, the way they put milk in coffee?
No, not outside of movies.
Never heard of it either. And here in the UK, everyone or most people put milk in their tea. I can only imagine the reason that started was to lower the temperature down to something that won't tear the top of your head off.
It's steeps now. Let's take the edge off.
I'm also really terrible about it. It's so many times I'll make tea and then I'll wait for it to cool down. I should just learn to put milk in it and I'll be fine, because then I can just drink it right away as opposed to leaving it on the counter and then coming back 3 hours later and it's just this glass of tea with a tea bag still in it. So it's so black, it's absorbing all the light around it.
Turned into a black hole.
Yeah,
we got black holes all over the kitchen. It's getting really annoying.
That company that owns Vanta Black, that one darkest, they sue us for intellectual property infringement. That's our black.
Violated their patent.
Yeah, so I got to learn to drink tea with milk in it. I did discover a tea latte that I loved when I was down in London with JD last time. We went to some coffee shops, and I got a London Fog, which is an Earl Grey tea latte. So just imagine a latte, shitloads of milk, essentially. Earl Grey, milk, and vanilla, a shot of vanilla in it. So good.
That sounds lovely.
So good.
Sounds
good. You would love it.
Lovely.
Got a little bit of botanical, little nose, little taste to it, It's good.
Look at you connoisseur.
Yeah, I got to give you my tasting notes on my Earl Grey latte. So just be careful out there. And, the worst part about it is when you go to McDonald's sometimes and you buy a hot coffee and you're drinking it and it's got chicken bones. That's the worst. That's the worst.
Well,
That's the worst.
You should know to be on guard against that, Bernie, because everyone knows that coffee has bones.
We were out to lunch the other day and we were out with a group of young people, and you and I got the fish. Ashley, we got the fish. We had a fish and a rice cake. We had the daily, like the special of the day. And it was a fillet of fish. I took a bite of my fish and I said, oh, Ashley, be careful. There's bones in this. Because in my first bite, I got a fish bone. Fish bones can be a nightmare.
And that is fairly common with fish. You generally understand that fish.
It's fairly common with animals that have bones.
Then
right?
don't call them boneless.
I get it. But I was thinking about that, and I asked the younger people that we were eating with, I said, have you guys ever like dealt with fish bones before? Is that like something you've dealt with? And all of them, 100% of them said, what are you talking about? No. There's bones, like you're eating around bones in your fish. And I was like, yeah, because either they don't eat a lot of fish, or we've gotten the process of getting bones out of fish down to a science, or probably more likely, most of the fish they've eaten in their life has gone through like a blender and a strainer and then been breaded and fried. Probably.
And been served on an oval-shaped bun at Burger King.
Exactly. Mixed in with Play-Doh. But actually, while we're talking about people with third-degree burns, did you read about the Belgian tourist who decided to go to Death Valley during the hottest ever recorded temperatures in history, wearing a pair of flip-flops that, according to the story, they lost their flip-flops in a sand dune and then got third-degree burns on their feet?
Man, it's the flip-flops that gets me, right? Like, and also, I don't know how you lose. Do you step out of a flip-flop and go, nah, it'll be fine, and go more than 3 steps in Death Valley without going, no, I'm going to go put that back on? How do you, that part I would love to know more about. But so this was crazy. It was 123 degrees at the ground, the ground temperature in Death Valley when this tourist was there. But at Death Valley National Park ranger,
was that the air temperature or was that the ground?
They said it was 123 degrees and the ground temperature would have been much hotter. So that was the air was 123 degrees. Park ranger said that the ground temperature could have been 170, 180, has been known to get as high as 200 degrees. So that is very, very hot. People had to.
Starbucks is hearing this. Like, let's make some tea.
People had to pick this guy up and carry him out of the dunes. It was so hot, Bernie. A helicopter could not land to take him to the hospital. They had to put him.
Oh, wow.
Which I didn't know that was a thing. But they had to put him in an ambulance and move him to a higher elevation where it was the balmy temperature, Bernie, of 109 degrees so that a helicopter could land and get him and take him to a hospital in, I think, Las Vegas.
Wow. Imagine when you're going to Las Vegas to get over a hot temperature. That's where you go to Las Vegas in order to get over that.
Let's go somewhere more reasonable.
That's crazy. Just don't. I feel bad for the guy. But don't do this stuff, man. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Just a little PSA. If you want to be a disaster heat tourist, please don't wear flip-flops.
I also feel like, I don't know how he got more than 2 steps away from his flip-flops and wasn't immediately just screaming. I feel like in those kinds of temperatures, you would step out of your shoes and then your first step, you would just start to
sizzle.
Like melt. Like you'd slowly just down to your knees and then you'd be like, and then gone after like 2 minutes. You just melt into the earth.
And just wisp away.
What's the worst burn you ever had in your life?
It was from a beach it was a cloudy day in Seattle, Washington. And I was much younger. I went with my family to a beach and I got these horrendous burns on my hands and at my forearms. And they hurt so bad. I had blisters everywhere. I could barely move them. And I had to get up like every 2 hours in the middle of the night and go and soak my arms in cold water in the sink because it hurt so much. It was a bad time.
You also got burned on The Amazing Race. You got burned in Armenia. We were using an oven, and you had to put your hands in the oven to like put this lavash bread in. And it wasn't all at once. It was like slowly as you put your hands in over the course of...
Right, you just get this like the heat builds up.
You're cooking, basically. Yeah.
Cumulative heat.
And you'd burn like your knuckles at the top. And so because of security reasons and everything else, all the medical personnel and security personnel on it are like special forces military guys. And so they all huddled around Ashley and applied lavender oil to her knuckles. I'm like, this relationship's over.
One of the like scariest dudes that I've ever met was just there applying lavender oil. And I was like, it smells nice. And he's like, yeah.
This will feel a lot better.
Yeah. And then they kept checking on me and it was so sweet. It was really nice.
Guy, like no necks, just shoulders like straight up to their ears.
You know, the kind that wear like the wraparound sunglasses.
And I was like, I come back from The Amazing Race. And they'd be like, did you win? It's like, I can't tell you. It's like, what happened to Ashley? It's like, don't ask. She's gone. Well, that's fair. All right. Well, this weekend on the Patreon, like we said, we will have our thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. We, like we said, we try to treat it like we're going out for coffee or pie after a movie and just chatting about it. That's the kind of the tone of it. We're not trying to be like, tell you what to think about the movie. Just having a friendly little chat. Also, I have decided on our Patreon this weekend, Ashley, I'm going to be posting the photo, with your permission, of your Trinity from the Matrix inspired dress at senior prom.
Not if you go missing first.
So if you want to see it, that's where you're going to see it. I can't refund any more of these little Venmo charges. So.
Well, speaking of Patreon, I would like to thank today's sponsors for this episode. It's Matthew, Bartholomew, and Reaper's Ghost. Thank you both for sponsoring this episode of the show at patreon.com/morningsomewhere.
Matthew and Mr. Ghost will be the first people to be able to see the photo as it's posted on Patreon. Don't you want to be part of that crowd? Please support our Patreon at patreon.com/morningsomewhere. All right, well, that does it for us this week, ending July 26, 2024. We will be back to talk to you on Monday. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.
I got a bone in my throat.